following the wrong advice may hurt your business and may make your company lose thousands of pounds. And that's why we have Scott Ritzheimer, and he will talk about how you too can build a brilliant organization. And he's been helping founders build brilliant organizations, and he loves seeing founders succeed. So the first question I have is, what's the secret to your success? And does it have anything to do with mastering how to have the right advice in order to help entrepreneurs succeed and build a brilliant organization?
Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu. Mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
Yeah. Well, thanks first for having me on the show. It's just really an honor and privilege to be here. I've had the opportunity to help launch about 20,000, almost 21,000 different organizations now. Some of them businesses, some of them nonprofits, kind of the whole spectrum, multiple continents, multiple countries, the whole nine yards. And you see anything like that happen that many times, and then you jump in the ring and do it yourself as well. And you start to see there's some patterns that play out. There's common threads. There's patterns of success. There's patterns of failure. And one of the things that I thought early on for a long time was that there is a route to success. There is a secret to success. There is a right thing that everyone needs to do. And if you just listen to the advice, and everyone has an answer for that. It's set goals or have big dreams or work really hard. And all of those things have truth and merit to them, but there's lots of people who have big dreams that fail. There are lots of people who work really, really hard and wouldn't meet the success standard of a lot of folks. So that's not it. That's not it by itself. And in fact, one of the hardest lessons that I learned was that I was asking the wrong question all along, right? How do you be successful? When what I really needed to ask was, how do I need to be successful? How do I need to act now to be successful? Because it changes over time. The way that you build a brilliant organization is by recognizing what stage that organization is in developmentally, what strategies are appropriate from that stage, and then eliminating everything else to focus on just that. But the problem with that is there are 1,000 people, right, across 1,000 different mediums, all telling us we all have to do all of these things, that it's virtually impossible for someone without the right framework to know what things should I focus on right now.
Okay, thank you. So what steps should entrepreneurs take in order to build a brilliant organization?
Yeah. So the first one, and a lot of folks will say this, and I'm in agreement with it, is you have to know what you want, right? And so the way that we capture that in business speak and consultant language is vision, right? What's your vision for the company? What's your vision for the nonprofit? And there's a really mechanical reason to that, and that is that if you don't know where you're going, how could you possibly lead anyone else there, right? You know, that can be your customers, it can be your partners, it can be your employees. You've got to know where you're going and what you want to do. And a lot of entrepreneurs kind of think they have a vision, but really they just have a job, right? They got rid of the boss, but they never really came up with something else. And the proof of that is when it gets hard, we kind of stall out or back down. The number one indication that you don't have a strong vision or you're not staying true to that vision is that when it gets hard, you back off or you back down. And so why vision is so powerful, particularly for founders and entrepreneurs, is I have found it is the one kind of constant in those that have success, because what it allows you to do is to adapt and evolve to continue toward that vision. If you don't have that vision, you'll get caught up in whatever the strategies are that have brought you success so far. And it's very difficult to understand what the next set of strategies will be. So very first one out of the gate seems kind of obvious, but a lot of people miss it, and that is you just have to have a vision for what you want. And when we talk about a vision for what you want, it has to be the vision for what you want. That's the second big piece of this. So many times, I would go so far as to say the vast majority of founders are actually borrowing someone else's vision for their organization, right? They're either, trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? This company that's really cool that they want to be as big as, or in their CEO group, someone's had more success than them, or, their dad never said that they'd be anything in life, or like it's all someone else's dream for their business, right? And it's crazy. No one wants to give their whole life for someone else's dream, especially not a founder. And so for a lot of folks, we have to recognize there's nothing inherently better about a $10 million business than a $1 million business. There's nothing better about this industry or that industry. The question is, what do you want to do? And so as founders, a lot of founders are perfectly fine just building a solopreneurship and focusing on impact and influence. Others are going to scale up and do amazing things. There's not something that's inherently better about one of those or the other. What's better is whether or not you have your vision for your company, for your nonprofit, and you're pursuing that. So that's the first one out of the gate. It's so fundamental. And again, for some folks listening, they're like, yeah, I have that, check that box. But when's the last time you looked at it? When's the last time it was built into your decision-making process? And how is it informing what strategies you take today? Those are all places I love to start with my clients.
Thank you. Tell us what would be the next step entrepreneurs should take in order to build a brilliant organization.
Yeah. So once you know where you're trying to get to, right? The next thing that we have to do, and a lot of folks will kind of get these out of order, but the next thing we have to do is know where we are right now. Right. And again, that might sound kind of obvious, but if you don't know where you are right now relative to that vision, you're not going to know how to bridge the gap in between. And so when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, I don't remember exactly how old I was walking around these things that we used to call malls, right? Indoor shopping centers. No one goes to malls anymore. But I'm in a mall with my mom, and she wants to go to a store here in the US called JCPenney, which for a 7-year-old boy is basically prison on earth, right? There's nothing that a 7-year-old boy wants to do at JCPenney. And so I am thinking, like, anything to get out of this. What do I do? And I see a shoe store along the way, and I'm like, this grand bargain, Mom, I'll go to the shoe store and then I'll come find you in JCPenney. And for some reason, she let me do it. And it was wonderful, right? Panacea is amazing. So I go into the shoe store, and being a 7 or 8-year-old kid, didn't have much money at the time, so I couldn't buy any of the shoes. I just looked at them. I got bored pretty quick, right? I needed to move on, do something else. And I take one step out of the shoe store, and like this feeling of dread comes over me. I have no idea where JCPenney is. Like, I'd never been to the mall before. I have no idea where my mom is. And I'm like starting to freak out. And it's all happening like microseconds. But this stranger, no idea who they are to this day, but recognizes this look on my face and is like, just, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I have no idea where I'm going. And they take me over just, 50 meters away to, there are these big pylons in the mall that have ads on two sides, and then they have a map on the other side. And they take me around to the side, they show me the map. And I distinctly remember the relief that I felt when I saw this little sticker on that map that says, "You are here." Right. And so once I knew where I was, I could look at the rest of the map. I could find my destination, JCPenney, and I could trace the route in between. And so what a lot of folks have to do is recognize where they are right now, because where they are right now isn't where they were before, right? It's not where they want to be. It's somewhere in between. And so what that looks like in the business world is understanding what growth stage you're in. Are you in that early struggle stage where you're just fighting to find a market, you're trying to get the thing off the ground, and you really don't know if it's going to work yet or not? Or have you gotten through that stage? Are you in the second stage that we call fun, because it's a lot of fun, and in that stage, it's about doing things as simple as you possibly can, right? Running as fast as you can. This is where the hustle culture comes up. This is where the work harder, because if you work harder in this stage, it works really, really well. However, there's a point, and anyone who has grown a business beyond 40 or 50 employees will tell you they'll reach this point somewhere in that ballpark where hustling just doesn't work anymore. Sure, you can work harder, but it's not going to produce any more result. And what's happened is we're in this third stage that we call whitewater. And whitewater is a really helpful point to pause for a moment to recognize that I think it was Marshall Goldsmith who said, "What got you here won't get you there." And whitewater is a point in growing an organization, scaling an organization, where many of your strategies have to change, from how you bring in new clients to how you treat your employees to where you recruit. Across the board, systemic change is necessary in virtually every single organization to build a brilliant organization. And it catches people off guard because, like, we were successful. We've been doing all these things so successfully so long. Why does it need to be different now? And it's because you're not where you were beforehand, right? And so the second thing that I always help folks to do is recognize, where are you right now? And it's only then that we can figure out which strategies are going to be the most effective.
Thank you. What is the next step for entrepreneurs to build a brilliant organization?
Yeah. So third step in the process is to get from point A to point B, right? And that's where when we have a clear vision of where we're going, we have an accurate understanding of where we are right now, the path in between generally becomes quite simple to understand. It's really not rocket science to create success. We just need to have those two big variables in place first. So the next step is to recognize what strategies, what areas of our business and our growth should we focus on in this stage. In the early struggle stage, if you're there, the answer is different. So early struggle, you have to sell stuff. You've got to find people who want to buy what you do, and if nobody wants to buy what you do, you have to pivot. You have to adapt either your market or your product, one or the other. You have to find a profitable, sustainable market. The second stage in fun. When you figure that out, then it shifts not to, hey, how do we just sell something to survive? It shifts to, how do we change how we sell this to thrive? How do we do things in a more repeatable way? How do we scale some of this up? How do we do more of what we've already got going on? So we're actually not trying as many new things. We're trying to focus as much as we can. In the whitewater stage, we go from working in the business to working on the business. So I'm not going to go through there's actually 7 stages. We don't need to go through every single one of them, but I just want to use that to illustrate that how you actually do this, how you build a successful organization, a brilliant organization from where you are right now, depends on the different stages you go through.
Thank you. Tell us about these 7 stages, because I'm curious about the 7 stages of you going from working in the business to working on the business and having more freedom.
Yes. So we've talked about a couple of them so far. So the very first one, every business goes through this, every nonprofit, in fact, every new location you start, every new product line, they all go through these 7 stages. And the first one is early struggle. And it's just, again, it's a fight to find the market. You have to find folks who are willing to buy what it is you do, and you have to do that at a profit. And once you figure that out, you tap into that market, you move into the second stage called fun. And fun is about mining that market. If you're a coach who sells coaching services, don't start fractional HR services, right? Sell more coaching services, do more of what it is that you figured out, and more and more and more of it. And so that's the second stage. It's all about driving revenue, selling what it is that you sell, and doing it again and again. So it's a really fun stage. There's a lot of freedom in it, in the sense that we have the freedom to sell the things that we want to sell. But what you find as you're doing it is, like, it's just a ton of work. And so you end the day kind of righteously exhausted. You have more kind of financial freedom. You have a little bit more kind of decision freedom, but you tend to not have a lot of time freedom because the business is highly dependent on you. And again, same thing is true for nonprofits. And then what happens as that grows is it gets complicated. There's more people, there's more processes, there's more products, there's more services, there's more of everything. And all that complexity adds up. And that complexity starts to cause us to cause problems. We start making mistakes. We start dropping the ball. We start just messing up in every way that you can think of, right? I was talking to a founder, and he said, hey, 6 months ago, we could have done anything that we wanted to do. But then at some point along the way, like, the entire team, all of us, we just got dumb. I can't tell you why it happened. I don't know what happened, but it's like the teenage years of business. It's just awkward and frustrating, and things that used to work really well aren't working as well anymore. And the problem with all of that is complexity. It's just a really complicated machine now relative to what it used to be. And so to overcome that complexity, we need system and process. We need to find a way of taming the complexity so we can really scale. And that's what leads us to the fourth stage, which is an amazing stage in terms of both the freedom that it offers to the founders, also in terms of the scalability of the organization, the impact of the organization, the revenue that you can create, the profitability, all of that goes up in the predictable success stage, right? Where you can set goals, regularly achieve them with success. And it's phenomenal. That's stage number 4. And it's the target for many business owners. How do I get to predictable success? And we talked about that a little bit in the sense of having the right strategies leading up to that, and especially systems and processes in the whitewater stage. Now, there are 3 more stages, but we call these the decline stages. So if you look at any, great business from, 50 years ago, something like that, and it happens even faster now, they have a ton of success, and it's like, we couldn't imagine a world without Amazon right now, right? Or we couldn't imagine a world without fill in the blank, Microsoft. But the reality of it is there will come a time and a day when there isn't an Amazon, there isn't a Microsoft, because every great organization, no matter how long they stay at the top, at some point has to, will fall prey to these decline stages. And the first one's called treadmill. It's where we get over-processed, right? We start to get a little bureaucratic, a little arthritic, and we overvalue the predictable side of predictable success. And what happens is we start to take less risks, we start to play it safe, we start to protect what we have, and in doing so, we lose connection with our visionary roots, right? We lose connection with our ability to innovate and change and adapt. And in doing so, it sets us up to fall into the 6th stage, second to last, which is called the big rut. And the problem with the big rut is you don't know you're in it. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of businesses and nonprofits out there right now that think that they've conquered the world, but they're dying slowly, right? They're just on this long, slow slide into irrelevance, and no matter what they do inside, it doesn't feel like anything can change it. And there's just one way out, which is the 7th stage, and it's called death rattle. And we try to do something, we try to fix it, we try to turn things around, and it's too little, too late. And so for us, what we can see with these different stages is we can get really clear on where we want to get to. We're not trying to get all the way to the end, right? We're trying to get to predictable success. And then we can see the strategies that allow us to succeed through those different stages.
Wow, great. What about adaptability to change? Because I find that, for example, I'm doing publishing for entrepreneurs and large events and PR. And what I've found is that over the last at least 6 months, AI has really revolutionized everything, including publishing. And I would say especially publishing. So now I'm having to adapt at a very fast rate. And I think that all businesses that are currently incorporating AI into their business are going to be way ahead, and all the ones that don't are going to be so behind that it will feel impossible to even compete, because AI can do so much and so quickly at a rate that, maybe you would need thousands of employees to even do what AI can do in 24 hours, right? Sure. If you deploy it right. So I wonder about the adaptability to change. What should founders do in terms of making sure they're creating systems to become adaptable to change and not become obsolete overnight? Like, how I do think a lot of businesses will become obsolete very quickly unless they incorporate AI, for example.
There are 2 what we call imperatives. There's 13 of them total, but there's 2 in particular that have the ability to lock you into the predictable success stage, right? Once you get there, these things will make it much harder to knock you out in one way or the other, right? So technological change coming, it's hanging on to these 2 things that allows you to navigate that effectively. So the first one is somewhat obvious, and it's just innovation, right? And AI is where we're seeing a ton of innovation right now. AI has some unique characteristics in terms of its scale and speed, right? That are relatively unprecedented. So it's putting a lot of pressure, but it's just another repetition of the same pattern over and over again. There's technological change, which has been happening over the course of human history. And so the way that we embrace that, the way that we incorporate it into what we do, the way that we allow it to change us, and the way that we know where to not let it change us has to deal with our relationship with innovation. happen, right? And so that's the first one, is just saying, hey, as a senior leadership team in particular, one of our primary jobs in predictable success is to make sure we continue to foster innovation across the company, right? Or across the nonprofit. And that's where we see a lot of AI happening right now. And again, AI is just one version of that. The second place, and again, this is one of the reasons why AI is putting so much pressure on organizations, is recognizing what we call key transitions. Major events in the market, in the industry, in the economy, inside your business, major events that have the propensity to push us out of predictable success, to make us fall back into that whitewater stage where it's just messy and complex, or to slide forward into that treadmill stage where we're over-processed and just kind of circling the wagons. And what tends to happen is we tend to be so busy with just keeping the business going, right? Just doing the thing to follow our strategic plan. We focus so much on tackling the things that we know that we need to tackle that we often miss the things that we don't know we need to pay attention to. And what great key transition planning does is forces us to take the time to say, what don't we know we don't know? How is this industry going to change, and what impact will that have on our success in the future? And what you see from great companies that are able to sustain that greatness is that they spend a concerted and consistent effort on understanding what changes are coming and working on preparing for those changes long before they ever have to. Whereas businesses that really struggle with adopting new technologies, facing market changes, fill in the blank, any type of major transition. Again, AI is just one of these that's happening right now. COVID was another example of a very big one. And so those who wait until the event happens to respond find it much harder to maintain predictable success. And so again, those two, building an innovative organization, having that constantly front of mind, and that's going to include in our current, at the time that this is recorded, AI and embracing those types of technologies, and two, looking at the key transitions that are coming and planning for them in advance. Those are the most important things that we need to be doing as a senior leadership team in that predictable success stage.
Thank you. What would you say most entrepreneurs miss out on, or perhaps sometimes implement the wrong advice on, in terms of what do you find that they tend to be typically told to do that you believe is unnecessary, unneeded, or really just poor advice?
Yeah, I think that most folks who are giving advice are giving good advice, but they're not necessarily giving it at the right time. So, for example, there's this really big problem that, let's say we're in the fund stage and it's all about generating revenue and growing sales and increasing leads. If in that fund stage you listen to people that are teaching you how to develop new leads and grow those, you tend to get a big return out of it, right? It tends to be very effective. But if you keep doing that and you find yourself in the whitewater stage where it's really complicated and you're messing things up as a company, and you try to solve that by just selling your way out of it, by bringing in more leads, what will happen is you'll struggle to do that. And then if you go out and say, hey, I'm going to hire a company that's going to help us to generate more leads, and you go out and ask them how to do that, but that's not the fundamental problem that you're experiencing. If you don't have a really good coach or consultant that's saying, hey, I understand you're looking for this thing, but what you really need is this, someone who can help you understand that the strategy needs to change, they may give you exactly what you're asking for, and it'll make your situation worse. And so a lot of times what happens is, in the same way that a lot of founders are not aware of the different stages and how they create success, a lot of coaches and consultants aren't either. And so they'll have a tendency to think, well, if I do this for this company and they succeed, I can do it for every company and they'll succeed. And that's just not true. It might be true for every company of that type in that stage. But what happens is we have a tendency to ask the wrong questions. And then as an industry and coaching, we have a really bad tendency, industry-wide, of just answering those questions rather than challenging the presumptions on which those questions are made. And so many times the wrong advice is actually the right advice, but at the wrong time.
Wow, that is fascinating. Tell us where entrepreneurs can find you.
Yeah. So you can find all kinds of information about the different stages that businesses go through and the different leaders that are needed in those stages at scalearchitects.com. ScaleArchitects.com. You can also find us if you look for Scale Architects across all the big social media platforms.
Thank you. And tell us, what can you help entrepreneurs with, and what would be the process they would be going through?
Yes. So here at Scale Architects, we've got folks primarily here in the US. And what we do is we help founders and business leaders to scale by adopting the right strategies at the right time. So we do that through a combination of both coaching and consulting, usually 6 months to 1 year programs. And it's ideal for folks who feel like they've tried everything and nothing's working, right? You've had some success, but it feels like it's stalling out. And you're wondering, is this it? Is this really as good as it gets? Those are the folks that we can help turn it around. We can get you back on track for the vision that you have for your business.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential, so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.